First off, Linoleum was awesome. I really enjoyed it. I love the ending, and it feels like it's going to be a really tough film to talk about without giving away what's going on the entire time. But I'm going to try to do my best.
Yeah.
But I am looking forward to watching it a second time because I feel like it's one of those movies that you're going to get even more out of it when you watch it that second time and can kind of put those pieces together. How many times approximately did you read the script before you knew what the hell was going on?
I would say probably I'm not that smart. So I would say probably the second or third. Like the first time I read it, I was like, oh, this guy's having a relationship problem. And then but I mean, that's also that's what's so fun about Linoleum. And what I would say is that, if you watched it, but like you also have to watch it with someone, because I've seen it like 5 or 6 times, at different festivals, and you discover different things, and like I think good art, it presents questions rather than answers. Like there isn't the moral of the story is you're supposed to do this or that. It presents these questions. I mean, even down to the title. What is the mean? Like you could have a discussion with someone just about the title. But with the script, I knew that it was super ambitious. I knew that it was a great acting opportunity. And I knew that it had to do with a little bit of relationships. And I don't want to give anything away. And, something in my family was kind of occurring when you get to those last 10 minutes. And so it was something that portraying that, was going to be something appealing. But, as an actor, I was really excited about an opportunity to play these two guys and but as a viewer, I mean, the last 10 minutes of this movie, when it kind of folds together, I mean, I'm not saying it's like, Usual Suspects, but like there is a little bit of like, oh, okay.
No, there's a moment where it kind of clicks for you, where you sort of realize how these things piece together. And and I agree with you. I watched it with my fiance and my son, and we talked about it for a couple of days afterwards. Just questions about it kept coming up, and we just had conversations about it. So I mean, I those are my favorite kind of films, right? Are the ones that like
absolutely
stick with you a little bit after for a few days or a couple weeks or whatever. And trying my best to avoid spoilers. But what were the difficulties in playing like two different characters while also knowing that their connection to one another is maybe a little more complicated than it initially seems?
It was, well, I mean, I think that, it's so fun as an actor to be able to portray two people in a movie. I mean, that's just, I love acting because I love finding the character within myself, because the last thing you want to do is act like you're somebody. You want to just find that person and kind of rationalize their point of view. It's completely authentic. Every decision Cameron or Kent makes, I don't have a doubt in my mind about, unless they have a doubt. So, but like portraying these two guys was, I mean, there's a lot of voices in my head anyway. There's a lot of versions of me. You know what I mean? There's a lot of versions of you. You know what I mean? And so that's what was so fun. But like also the relationship between the two. So like some of it is the math of it, which I'm not great at math and I know nothing about science. But it was the math of that equation that was so fun. And, like in stand-up, some of it is establishing jokes and how a joke happens, how it's going to influence this or that. So I do love some of the mapping out of all of it. But portraying the different characters, I mean, I feel like there are different there's different versions of all of us. You know, like you mentioned, you have a kid. It's like the version of you before you had a kid is pretty different from you. Like people can say it in a negative way or in a positive way, but
it's really negative. It's
reality is no, but the reality is people change. Now, that being said, I do think this movie is about, I think it's a love story. You know what I mean? It's like, but I've also seen it 6 times. So it's like, I'm also, 6 times beyond maybe, is this movie about, perspective? It's about relationship. Is it about, the ridiculousness of
my take personally was that it felt very much like, I agree with you that it's like about their relationship, but I also think there was a heavy layer of legacy involved and what that means. I mean, it was a very layered movie. I loved it. I do want to know, like, do you feel like you will ever fully transition into acting and leave stand-up behind, or do you feel like acting in any way takes away from your ability to focus on stand-up? Because I know since I started working with comic book, I've been at comic book 6 years now, and my stand-up has had to take a back seat because I spend so many, I do so many interviews every day that by nature, I just can't focus on stand-up as much as I would like to. So,
I mean, well, here's what I would say. I would say that no, I would never. And the bad news for you is that I think once you're a comedian, you're always a comedian. So like the people that completely walk away from it or like say, I'm retiring, they're retiring from touring, but like you're always a comedian. So, but I think the acting world, which I love so much, is such a horrible experience. You know, like stand up, there is not only is there kind of this false equivalency of a meritocracy, we have control over that fulfillment. We can come up with an idea and execute it. As much as I love working on Linoleum and I love acting, I'm not in control over the roles I get. And so I might be offered something, but I don't want to do that. Because not only, is there stand-up, there's also being a parent and a partner to my wife. So it's one of those things where because acting is so, I guess, unfair, or like you have no control. Like, look, if I was getting tons of acting roles, I would say, yeah, there is an impact on stand-up. But I feel like for me, a forced break from stand-up is actually healthy. Like, I think that stand-up is such a nocturnal thing and acting is such an early morning thing that doing only stand-up is probably not the healthiest thing to do, right? You're like, it's like, I'm sure it's 3 a.m. and I'm not tired and I don't do ambient or anything like that. And then in acting things, you're like, okay, I have to be on set at 5. You know what I mean? So there's these two different worlds, but because of, and I hope that I get a lot more acting roles, but I've been doing this for a while and you just don't have any control over what acting roles you get. You know what I mean? And you have to be the right type, obviously. You know what I mean? People can't just shoehorn you in. Yeah. So I don't think it'll interfere. And I like working. You know what I mean? Like when people are like, what hobbies do you have? I'm like, I don't know, gardening, maybe. But like, it's like kids, writing, stand-up, acting, like what else? I mean, I don't play golf. You know what I mean? I don't know. Do you play golf?
No, not at all. Right. I got one quick question I want to ask you just because I do work for ComicBook.com. I just wanted to mention that I loved your voice acting for Thunderbolt in the second season of Stargirl. And I was just curious about how come you didn't come back for season 3.
Well, by the way, that was an amazing, a really great, interesting experience, and I loved it. And it's all of this is going to sound like BS, but like some of it was just time commitment. And you might sit there and go, you had to just do a voice. Why didn't you do that? And I was like, well, because I don't think it's like if I'm traveling around doing stand up, and if I'm, like if I'm even like 2 days going into, like during the pandemic, it was like, yeah, I'll do it. You know what I mean? And then Stargirl, and I have kids, and kids love Stargirl and all that. But like, it was also one of those things where they're like, do you want to do it again? And I'm like, some of it is like, even 5 days where I'm, it's like, that's a lot of time. So some of it is, and they were so nice. And like the guy that ran the show was amazing. And it was a great opportunity when I was doing some of the visual thing where I wore a camera on my head and I pretended to be Thunderbolt and all that. But it's weird, because you go through, like, I'm seeking creative fulfillment. And that's not to say that it wasn't creatively fulfilling. It was, but it was also, I'm really busy. So there's picking and choosing. It sounds weird, but like I'm being completely serious. Everyone was great, but like, I just was like, I don't have time to do that.
I totally understand. I've had to turn down like 3 interviews this week. It's just don't have time. Not with you though. Not with you. I love
That's
you.
Right.
Jim, thank you so much for your time. This was a really just great time for me. And I really appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks. Nice chatting.